Hey everybody, how you doing tonight? If it's just me talking tonight, I'm not gonna stay on that long. I'm just gonna talk for a little bit. Um, Current state of Florida State football. Whew. Uh, yeah, I'd love to say it is what it is, but it's really not. It's just sad. So I guess yeah, it is what it is. Even though I just contradicted myself there, but let's just first off, I want to welcome you to this if you're watching live or if you watch later. That's fine as well. Remember, even if you don't watch this live and you leave a comment, I'm happy to get back to it after this. It doesn't have to be right now. Um, I'm just going to give my 2 cents. I'm not saying I'm an expert. I'm not saying I'm plugged into everyone. Um, I'm just going to speak from the heart because last night sucked. And the worst part about it is that for Florida State football, I'm saying it sucked. Um, it you knew you weren't going to win. You just had that vibe you weren't going to win. You just knew SMU was going to create problems with their scheme offensively with Adam Fuller. You knew that they were going to be super pumped up for their first ever ACC game. You knew it was going to be a night game there, so they were going to be extra. What's the word I'm trying to say? Uh, Extra lubricated. That's not a good word to use these days. Extra, just fueled up with some some drinks. So it just it didn't bode well, and we had to win a crazy one the week before to get our first win. So you just wanted to see some signs of competency. What's up, John? Motivated. Team is not, but hey, your Bucks are playing well, so I'm happy for your Bucks. I love how Baker Mayfield's turning the season around. Um, so I appreciate you chiming in, John. Um, so yeah, what I was trying to say was just it was awful. It was one of the worst performances I've ever seen from a Florida State football team. And that's saying a lot after some of the games we've seen this year already, to the Boston College game. Um, and I'm going to do my best, 100% my best, to not be disrespectful of any players. I'm not going to get personal with players or coaches. I don't think that helps. I don't think that if I do that, I'm validating my point in any way. So if you're looking for me to just be harsh and critical and just be downright disrespectful, this isn't the vlog for you. It's not vlog, sorry, the live stream for you. But if you just want brutal honesty, I'm here for that. Because last night was the first time through this whole crazy season. Hold on. Do you think they were DS? What do you mean, John? What do you mean? uh, Tell me what you mean by that, and I'll be happy to answer. Uh, Dissatisfied? I don't know. They shouldn't be. They were getting paid these days. Um, I don't know. Oh, distracted from the storm. Sorry, he put distracted from the storm. Not at all. They left Thursday. Tallahassee didn't get hit as hard as they thought they would be. Um, no, I don't. I don't think so. Not at all. Uh, so that's that for that. I'm sure it wasn't a great week for them, but we when you've watched them progressively get worse and worse every week, I mean that I could understand that reason if we've been playing decent this year and last night was just a bad night. But there's no data points to prove that. That's for sure. But it's a good point though. I appreciate that, John. Um, yeah. So last night was the first night I really wanted to key in on Norvell more. During the game, I wanted to see his body language. I wanted to see how he interacted with the players, and I wanted to see just where his head was at through this rough start because I was so impressed 3 years ago when we started 0-4, how he just never wavered and was strong as a bull and stayed true to himself. And last night was a total opposite. He looked dejected. He looked disheveled. When we got a penalty in one play, he just stood there like this. Maybe he was shocked there. Um, I saw one time he always meets with the offense right after like a punt, a change of possession. And I saw him like this right before the commercial break. I know he wasn't sleeping, but what are you doing there? Like, how do you motivate your team by doing this right before discussing what you're going to do on first down? That blew me away. And maybe I'm overanalyzing it, and that's quite possible. Um, we tend to do that as diehard fans of our team. Um, but man, like I just didn't see anything from him to make me say, man, these players should be playing their tails off even more because look at their head coach. Um, so to me, everything always starts from the top. If you're acting like that, don't expect your team just to have a full turn, just fully come in and play amazing. Because yeah, maybe last year we got away with it. Maybe at times, I think Norvell was more into it last year, and I don't want to hear, well, he's just frustrated because he just can't figure it out. Well, you know what? You're making $10 million a year, and you made a lot of demands in the offseason. Now I get it. The demands were to help the team and the betterment of the program. So I get it. It's very common with coaches fight the school to get more resources. Obviously at Georgia and Alabama, and those schools don't have to do that. So I get it. I was glad he did that at the time, if it was just going to help the team. So all the extra concessions you've got, and I'm not even talking about his salary, that 8 to 10 million, I don't think that's going to change his life, especially in Tallahassee. But you're giving us this product, and then you're giving us the same answers every time. And then you run your quarterback on a 4th and goal after the 3rd and goal got stuffed completely, where your quarterback can't even run really. Like, what are we doing here? You're not benching starters on offense who are playing terrible. You're not giving, and I said this after the Memphis game. I said you're not giving the freshmen and second year guys a reason to stay for next year, besides the losing. That doesn't help, of course, especially with the transfer portal. But what was I going to say? You're just like, if a star player, or excuse me, if one of our top young players called me today, and I'm not saying they are because they're not. I'm not that kind of fan. Just hypothetically called me and said, should I hit the portal after this year? Because it's not good here. I don't know how I would tell him to stay, that he should stay. I would have to take off my garden gold glasses, and I always would, but I couldn't give him a reason to stay if he can go somewhere better. Nobody wants to get their brains beaten in practice all week to look like that on a game day. Nobody does. I don't know how he rallies the troops now. That's why I thought after Georgia Tech he would circle the wagons, figure out what was wrong, and then we'd be playing a little better. I've watched not only just get worse every week, but they're creating new ways to lose. Like I said, I didn't expect us to win last night, which is sad when you're playing SMU. No offense to SMU, but that's a team you should beat on paper and on everything. But they were that bad where it was like, what? Kyle Morlock, you can't just drop a ball now. You got to tip it in the air to the other team. That's not on DJ. I understand, but that bad, like receivers at some point get separation. DJ at some point. John Fletcher, what's up, man? Norvell's body language disposition is way off. Could be something deeper going. It's perplexing. John, I don't know if you caught when you joined in, and I appreciate you joining in. I just talked about that I specifically watched for that last night, and that was the absolute case. It reminded me of Jimbo Fisher his last year in Tallahassee. I'm not saying Norvell's checked out like Jimbo was, but it was the same thing. Head buried in the play sheet. That means you're disengaged with everything going on the sideline and the overall picture of the game. Not good. It was bad, and I think you've lost the fan base. I don't know about the team right now. I think you have. I think after that, I think most people would agree with me. The defense was trying last night until after the personal foul on that punt, which, well done there. I don't think that was the right call, but nonetheless, they called it, gave them a first down. I think the defense was done after that. And you were only down 12 in the third quarter. A good team can come back there. I watched Georgia come back last night. And if Georgia had lost 30-7, they'd still be in the thick of the playoff hunt. But they didn't quit. Our team quit last night. I watched them quit right in front of my eyes. And I couldn't blame them at one point because if the head coach is acting like that, how are they going to stay engaged? Yeah, so John, I think something is going on with Mike. I don't know what it is. I think frustration doesn't mean you act like that during a game. So we might never know. They're very secretive there, and he's not going to come out and say, "Well, I had this problem." He has to just ride this out. I was never that much of a believer of midseason fires unless it just really made sense and you had somebody there. Man, I don't care now. Just send the message to the fans that we're not going to take this lying down. You had weeks to just get rid of Randy Shannon, who's been a disaster on and off the field. And I don't mean as a person. I mean just with the way the linebackers play and with the way you've been recruiting. You got Ernie Sims on staff now, who was a linebacker coach at UCF. The season's over. You might as well just give him a tryout and audition for next year if you want to make him your linebacker coach. It's a great opportunity. You still haven't done that. Blind loyalty is what's hurting Mike too. I said this last time. I really wonder if these guys have been with him so long, they're almost like, oh, don't worry. I don't have to be afraid of this guy. And I'm not saying you should be in fear of the head coach you work for, but man, Nick Saban, I don't think he's holding them accountable now because when you watch him get worse every week, something isn't right. And that's just my personal opinion. So I'm not going to come in here and blame players tonight. I'm really not, because if I watched the head coach do that, what do you expect? And I wasn't there at the game. I didn't see all the assistants and how they were interacting with players and how they were acting. I'm sure they were trying. It's just depressing. That's not Florida State football. That's not. It's the worst offense I've ever seen in college football. The way they are performing. I can't believe I just had to say that, man. Like, really? And it's not sour grapes here. Trust me. I took it in stride last night. I switched over to Georgia Bama and watched one of the best. It might be the best college football game I ever saw. What they were doing last night, back and forth, and I see some more people are coming in, and that's awesome. So if you want to leave a comment, man, I'd love to answer it. It's more fun for me to interact with you guys. That's for sure. So I thank you on this Sunday night when the season has just been dreadful. And the sad part is we're now entering the even harder part of our schedule. So I think blind loyalty is hurting him with the coaching staff. I think sticking with certain players, like the transfer portal should work both ways. Yeah, the players have it as leverage to go if they're not happy or use it for benefits. Coaches also can say to a player, hey, man, like, there's no spot for you here now. Like, you haven't done anything. I'm going to get another player who's going to take your spot. Like, there's ways around it. I don't think he's encouraged players to use the portal. And that sounds nice and that sounds commendable. But are you helping the team that way? And I'm not saying cut guys and do that. I mean, Jimbo Fisher never believed in trimming the fat, as they call it, where Nick Saban would call in about 5 or 6 players or more every offseason and be like, let me encourage you to transfer. And now with the portal, you don't even have – it's a whole lot different than encouraging because they can play immediately somewhere else. So I think you got to have a hard – I think if you're the admin now, you got to have a hard conversation with the guy. I'm not saying fire him, although I think it would be on the table now if we didn't have this new contract. I didn't think that 2 weeks ago. I'll admit. I think just get through this year, let him replace the coaches that aren't delivering, and let's try this again. And now, no. I heard some people on another website say last night, if they honestly think that if Norvell didn't get that extension after last year, he'd be done. And can't argue that. This is just you're trying to build this program into I'm talking about from the university standpoint. If you're in a lawsuit to try to get better opportunities. I understand wins and losses aren't what's going to like draw the Big Ten or SEC to us or the networks. It's ratings. Like I understand that, but you still want to present a good product to them. We're not doing that. You're trying to present a brand new stadium next year with Alabama coming to town week 1. Oh, that stadium's going to look great on national TV when we get our brains beat in. Not good. You want to build a standalone football facility, which we've been talking about for a while. You gotta focus on this coaching situation right now if you're the admin. And I understand with a guaranteed $65 million, how much can you really tell him? But it needs to be done. I think Alfred this offseason, he loves Norvell and he trusts him so much. And after last year, he was like, let me focus on other sports teams. Let me focus on the lawsuit. Let me focus on the construction of Doak. Let me focus on the players only. Mike, you got football. I don't even have to deal with you. You got this. I don't need to see you in my office. I think leaving Mike and giving him so much even more autonomy and more resources has hurt the team. And maybe I'm overreacting there, but I really think that. I think when you don't have an extension of guaranteed money like that, when you know you have an AD that's going to be on your backside, that's one of the reasons I don't know if he was offered the Bama job or not. There's people absolutely convinced now there's no way he was. It was just Jimmy Sexton leveraging DeBoer for that job and Norvell for an extension of Florida State. Who knows? We'll never know. Although I do believe there was interest from Bama. I don't know if he was officially offered it or not. But I think it was one of those like, I think he was feeling himself a little bit. I can take all these transfers. Look what I've done in the past. Every team has a different personality every year. Last year's team, you didn't have to be a drill sergeant with because they were such veterans and leaders. And man, coach, we got this. Don't worry. This year's team needs to be, I don't want to say put on a leash, but you got to be much more stern with. I don't mean physical and hit them. I mean just in practice, I don't know if he was doing that. I wasn't there. They said he was the same guy in practice. I don't know. I wasn't there. But every team you might have to adjust your style of coaching to because it's just a different personality for whatever reason. People are different. If you think you can just I'm sure Nick Saban changed his style. I'm sure he kept his core principles and his core values the same every year. But I'm sure his demeanor with teams every year was different. I don't think Mike did that this year. At least that's what it shows. And I really don't. The worst thing I hear right now is the whole, these players at NIL and they don't care. You know what? I'm sure Georgia players are making as much or more. I'm sure Bama players are making just as much or more. Ohio State, Texas, and the list goes on. And those players are playing their tails off every week. So that's not an excuse. If I just rambled for too long about the same thing, I apologize. I'm frustrated just like any Noel fan. I'm at the point now where I'm curious to hear if the administration does anything. They can't. I'm not going to fire him, but man, force a midseason change. Force something to show the fan base they should still contribute to this operation because you're not doing that now. And guess what? You need even more money to compete these days. It's not just ticket sales and booster money. You need NIL contributions. You're asking for seat licensing fees at the new Doak Campbell Stadium. Guess what? People aren't going to pay to see this product. So even if Alabama's coming week 1. So I think that a lot needs to be addressed before the end of the year instead of just at the end of the year now. And I didn't think that 2 weeks ago, but I do now. But if you were here and watched it, I thank you. John, thank you for chiming in the chat. John Fletcher, thank you so much for chiming in on the chat. Oh, I'm sorry, John, I missed this. Let me add this. Absolutely. My worry is if he sticks with DJ or even switches to Glenn, I'm concerned. You know what? It's a great point. And Ward Chance said it. Corey Clark said it perfectly this week, so I'm just going to piggyback off his word because I would have said it the same exact way, and I don't like taking credit for other people's opinions. How do you go with Brock if you didn't trust him to replace this train wreck of an offense? So I don't think the fan base would get behind that. And when I say, I understand it's up to the coaches to decide who the best quarterback is, but you still need contributions. So yeah, you would hope Luke could be the guy, but it's a year two guy. You don't know how much he has progressed since he's got there. If you go to the portal, and if you do, you better get it right this time, because fans aren't going to ever want to see the DJ situation again. As good a guy as he is, he's just not been a good quarterback for us. That's just the brutal truth. But if anybody isn't here still and wants to chime in, if not, I'm going to sign off. That was just I guess you can call it State of the Union. I don't know, be rambling a little bit, but I like to have these sessions where I talk a little. Other people want to join in. That's great. I call it a vent session. If haters want to come in and respectfully troll, I can deal with that. That's fine. That's why I always say respectfully. But regardless, thank you. I'm still a Knoll through and through. I say till the wheels come off, and last night I think they kind of did. But love my team, love my school. I'd rather lose a Knoll than win as anybody else. That's for sure. So take care. Talk to you later, and thank you for watching this.